Okay, it's a little over after 8 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the last day of the investor webinar series. It's day 4. We'll just talk about how to get a property prepared for long-term rental and a short-term rental. Just before we start, just to give a idea, who let me introduce myself and Apto Real Estate Group. Uh, my name is John Bosco, and I am a realtor with the LPT Realty, and my team is Apto Real Estate Group is my investment arm. We already talked about what we do and how we do things in last 3 days. Um, just to recap what we did, day one, we talked about why real estate. What do you want to invest in, whether it fits your goal, and what are the investment goals you can have. The strategy fit, what kind of strategy you can do, whether it's rental, long-term rental, short-term rental, BRRRR, or flip, whatever your strategy is, that will fit you and your time. Obviously, there are three things you got to uh, look into before you decide what you want to do, what your strategies are. One is your time, the capital you can spend, and your skill level in real estate. Um, the day two, we talked about how to build your buy box, which is basically your criteria, and how to keep define it and work on it, not go beyond your buy box and wasting time. Third day, we talked about how to find deals as a passive investor. We mainly focus on this webinar for passive investor, and how to fund your investment. Today, we are going to assume you bought your first property, and how are you going to get it ready, prepped for long term, whether it is a long term rental or a short term rental. It's two separate strategy. It's not same. There are certain things you got to look at it, and the difference. We'll talk about it and what are the things you need to do to get it prepared. Um, let's let's see what we have. Give me a second. Sorry. The computer is not responding well. Sorry, went too far back. Okay. Okay, let's start with the long-term rental, because that's normally most people who are doing passive investment is going to do, because it requires less hours or less effort than a short-term rental. So we'll take a look at it first. And there are 7 steps. I call them steps. We can say it is checklist if you want. These are the 7 things you need to do before the rental is ready for renting. That way you are not dealing with the repair calls during a tenancy lease time. First and foremost is safety. A tenant is a human, whether they are single or couple or family. You have to treat them as a human and make sure they are safe like you do for yourself and your family. So safety is the first thing, and make sure the property is everything is secure, everything is safe for whatever. The windows have locks, doors have locks, or the electrical outlets, are they loose? If they are loose, you gotta make sure it is fixed, right? Then the durability. When I call durability, you bought a property and you know there are some things that is old that may need to be replaced in a year. Let's say you bought the property and the water heater is already 10 years old. Personally, I would suggest replace it as soon as you bought the property. That way you are not worried about it next 10 years and it breaks down and it floods the property, then you are dealing with that, right? So address those kind of things at the beginning, so your property has more durability. uh, so you can sleep well at night and not getting a call. All your property manager is not handling and charging you for everything, right? Of course, cleaning, do a deep clean. Whenever the first time you may want to do a deep clean, because you don't know what was in there before. You want to make sure all the bugs and everything. When I say deep cleaning, it includes insect control and everything. Uh, Once the property is ready, prepped, assuming it is all painted and looking nice, you take the photo. You always do professional photo if you can, or have if you have a friend or someone who can do a little bit better photo, do it. Taking photos in a cell phone works, but it doesn't show well a property, because a photographer can make it look well, because people are going to be browsing internet before and looking at the photo before they decide they like the property or not to rent. So the photos are important. The first impression is the best impression, right? So that's one of the things we always do. We always use a professional photographer, cost about $150 or so, depending on the location, 150 to 200, depending on the location. Um, Few good photo with the good lighting will do much better job of lot of cell phone photos. Okay, then do a rent comp. You have to make sure it's not a property, it's not a rental, it is a business, like I said, pretty much every one of the previous days, right? It is a business. Treat it like a business. Look who is your competitor. Basically, your competitor is another property, rental property listing at the same time. Because any renter that is going to be looking at it have now choices they can make. Anything that is available in the market for them to rent, all of them are their choice. And if they are equal, so you are going to make sure the comps are correct. When we say comps, if your property is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, you are going to be looking similar. 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom minimum, and maybe one and a half to three bathroom. They are your comps. Okay, nothing beyond. Your 1 bedroom is not a comp, because anybody looking for a 2 or 3 bedroom, they are not going to be looking at a 1 bedroom property, right? So make sure your comp is, you look and see what others are listed and how the property looks. Are they better than yours? Are yours better than them? Make sure you know all those. So when you are showing the property for a potential renter, you can tell and actually tell them, oh, there's one in there. You might have looked at it, and that's the difference, right? So also, because it is a product, it is not a rental, it is not a home or property. It's a product for a renter. So which means price plays a role. So you have to fix the right price. So your comps, another property, the rental property available right same time when you are listing. Let's say that is listed for 1800. You cannot list it for 2000 and expect somebody to come and walk in and take it, right? So because they're going to be looking at the other one and choose that. Only after that one is gone, maybe another person might come. So what happens? Your vacancy becomes longer, because remember the second day we talked about how we can make a property high and more profitable by turning the knob. So now the knob is reduce the vacancy, right? So if you are going to be, let's assume you put another $100 and your property is sitting there for 15 days vacant. 1,200 for $2,000. So you didn't make any money. You are breaking even by the only thing you did is you can say you are renting $100 more than anybody else, right? And the other risk is the renter is going to find out, because like everybody, every human, yourself are a renter, they are going to be talking to their friends and find out they are paying more. So they are waiting for the lease to be end too. As soon as lease is over, they are going to be move out. So you want to reduce the move outs too, because you cannot have renters moving out every year. Because what happens is you are going to be spending for cleaning, repair, maybe painting, and you are going to take photos, you are going to advertise, and it's going to sit there, vacancy is going to be there, right? So we are cutting down, we need to cut down. So personally, I would recommend, if you think the property is going to be 1800 is ideal market price, rent it for 1750, because that way the renter is going to say, because we are going to be talking about how to get good, what are the things you can see, look into when scrutinizing a renter. Okay, we'll be talking about a couple of slides later. Okay, so once you have them, make sure you keep them for a longer time, because you don't want to keep losing renters every year, because that adds up to your cost, which basically you are losing net income, right? Uh, then the third one, sixth one is screening. We just talked about. Basically, screening is you got rental applications. You are looking at it, who is your right renter, whether they like the house, and they tour the house, all those. So that is the screening process. Once you screen everything, when we say screening, we need to, you are a business at this point in the eyes of law. So you need to be following every single local law, state law, and federal law is equal opportunity law and everything. So that is applicable to you at that point. So the screening should be consistent. You have to have a screening criteria and everything. Then lease, of course, the lease comes into play. You have the lease, sign the lease, and what are the process, move in, and all those things, right? So these are the 7 steps you do uh, to get a renter into the rental property. Once the lease is signed and the renter moves in, that's an execution part. Okay. Moving on, just to give up, yeah, we are talking about the screening. Here are some things that probably it is common if you look in the internet or search anywhere, look at any apartment complex or anybody. These are common in most places. Some may vary. Um, Personally, we recommend income, and the gross income should be 3 times the rent. What does this mean? Um, let's say the monthly rent is $1,000. We need to see the renter and the household income monthly household gross income at least $3,000. That's what this means. Okay, what that way you are sure they are able to pay and they are in their mean, they are not going overboard. If they are making only 2,000, they are putting $1,000, they are going to be having financial difficulty at some point, which impacts you at the end of the day, right? Then create a minimum credit they need to have. You cannot expect a renter to have a perfect 800, right? They are renters for a reason. They are still building their credit. So you got to define your minimum credit. And that's what your criteria is going to be screening, right? Some things we look for when we do background check for all our renters, regardless, complete background check, and we look for no violent eviction. People may have eviction at some point. They may have lost a job 3, 4 years ago. It's okay. It is understandable, and as long as they explain that upfront, because they are open and honest. So it happens, life happens to people, but we are talking about violent eviction, meaning the sheriff has to come and evict somebody, okay? Or they are violent, harmed somebody. So that kind of behavior we are talking about. Um, Verify with prior landlord. It is a hit or miss because most of the landlords are not going to say anything. Even if their current landlord says, "Oh, yeah, they are good renters," does that mean they are good renters? We don't know because it may be the landlord want them out of the property. So it is a hit or miss, but we do recommend checking because sometimes some information can come. It's worth calling the previous landlord or if they are within last 2, 3 years, if they are in the so however many landlord, probably call them all. If they are there for more than 6 years, probably the landlord may not have any problem. So you can still call them, right? So that is one of the things I always recommend. Just call and find out if they are not giving any information. That's fine, but if they give and it is useful for you, that is a good information for you. Okay. The lease, basic things in the lease. You should have, probably you can get the lease from any place, or if you have an attorney, just have them draw a lease for you, pay up at the beginning and use the same lease over and over again. And maybe check if there is a law change, you may have to make sure it is uh, incorporated, right? Basic things, late fee, when is late fee going to apply and how much is going to be the late fee. Of course, the lease has to contain the actual rent, starting lease period and ending lease date. Um, and the late fees have to be defined clearly. How much is the fee and when the fee starts? Is it uh, if they didn't pay on the first day, the late fee gets applied for the second day. And if it is a percentage, how much percentage? I personally don't recommend percentage for the reason because there is a limit. You can, but depending on which state you are in, there is a percentage. You cannot go beyond their rent. A certain percentage, if you are doing let's say you are saying 3% of the rent every day, you cannot be doing the whole thing, right? So it is going to go over. So there is a limit. So I normally recommend doing a $50, $100 late payment and keep it depending on the rent, because you cannot put a $100 late payment for a $500 rent. That is obnoxious, right? That's 10% of the rent. So you got to be reasonable when you do the late fee. Okay. Then define every single utility should be listed and clearly state whether it is landlord responsible or the renter responsible. Then what kind of maintenance the renter should be doing. For example, some of our single home property, the renter maintains has to replace the HVAC filter every 3 months. Where if HVAC stops and our technician looks at it and it is all clogged, dusted, and never replaced, we are going to charge our renters. That's defined in our lease. So every single thing needs to be defined. Then the renewal notice. When either party, you or the renter, have to notify how many days, months before. Well, usually it is going to be days. So before, let's say, we normally keep the 60 days. That way we get notified and we have a month to prep and we can start advertising before the renter moves out. So some people do 30 days. It depends. And the location, if every other landlord is doing 30 days, you cannot be putting 60 days because that will deter some of the tenants, right? Because it is not norm in the area. So you got to know your competition, what they are doing too. Then any addendum, of course, lead paint. Uh, if the property is built before 1970, you have to have. If you know the property has lead paint at some point, you got to make sure it is taken care of and disclose the information. Bed bug, how bed bugs are being treated. Uh, who is going to treat it, right? Mold disclosure needs to be, and it should clearly, uh, the EPA has this, EPA site has all this information. Probably you can download and give it part of your lease addenda. Okay. That's pretty much what basic the lease that you got to be looking at. And depending on the location, if it is HOA and other things, you may want to look at it, who is going to be paying. Sometimes the landlord pays, sometimes the renter pays, but depends. But if the renter is going to pay, how is it impacting the overall renter's expense? Okay. Then you got to consider, go back to the top one. Income needs to be 3 times rent. It is not rent. Then rent plus your HOA and any variable, because utilities are going to be variable. I normally consider them variable because summer months they may have less electricity. Winter month, if it is gas powered heat, it's going to have more gas. So it is going to be varying and how they are going. I also add that into my 3x rent. Okay. Uh, that's pretty much what I want to discuss about the screening and at least essential. That should give a pretty decent idea, and probably you can look at search for a lot more and might get more, but don't get uh, discouraged by seeing a lot of things, because you cannot have everything in the lease, okay, and address everything in the lease by yourself. If that is the case, if you want, I would say go to an attorney and get a lease prepped for your preference. Do not get it from some pre-made one for $50 or something that may not cover everything, okay. uh Then let's take this specific example. Let's say what we talked about, right? So applicant A, income is 2.5x rent versus applicant B is 3.2. So if you just take that as a criteria, applicant B may be your best choice. However, so if you look at it, that's what it is, right? They are reducing. They are reducing the risk. if that is the case. But it is not just that you need to look. That's why you have to define your lease criteria. Let's say they had their credit score is too low. If applicant B's credit score is, let's assume, let's say for example 600, and applicant A has a credit score of 650, which they've been. So do you want to take a look at it? So you want to look at all those. It's still 2.5 maybe too low. In that case, I would say applicant with a 3 versus applicant B with a 3.5. I would go with the applicant A who has a better credit history. All right. So you got to look everything and make sure you have this criteria. So everything you have to do is like your buy box to buy the property, define your criteria box. Okay. Uh, that's mostly we are going to be doing to rent a long-term rental. Uh, then you execute the rent part and address any issues or anything. Collecting rents is different story. Um, that's not preparing, that's execution, operations, that up, right? Now, more before operation, we talked about mostly capex, okay, your capital expenditure and getting prepped and all those. Similarly, for a short-term rental, the short-term rental is a little bit more involved and takes more time because depending on how many days the rental is going to be renting. So even operations is much more involved. Prepping is much more involved because prepping is you got to furnish it perfectly because if for that area, what are people going to look for? What type of people are coming on? What are they going to look for? That's what you are going to furnish. So identifying the right furniture, furnishings, anything you do, your utensil, cable, everything, you gotta identify, spend time, then to set them up, decorate the house, uh, all those. Then the cleaning ops, the cleaning is not the one time like long term. You have to identify your cleaning crew unless you are going to be doing yourself, which is why it might require more time if you are going to be doing yourself. So if you are going to have a cleaning crew, identify the cleaning crew, negotiate, and what they have to do. You have to define. They are not going to be telling you what they are going to be doing. You have to define because it is your business. You are running it. You are the boss. Tell them what to do, and if and make sure they do it. Okay. And the pricing, of course, the pricing is going to be variable. It's not like 1 year lease, 1,800 a month every month. It's going to be one day, one certain time of the year per day is going to be $70 a night. Sometimes, certain time of the year, the price is going to be 200, 300, whatever the price is. So you need to know you need to do your due diligence, understand what pricing it should be, and competitive. Again, it is a business. You are going to have competitors. You got to make sure your price is competitive and constantly checking against whenever there is a vacancy or even not vacancy where people are going to be booking in advance, and so you are looking further when other things places are coming available, and are you competitively priced, right? Then the calendar, what some people rent it and not rent it certain time of the year because they don't want to be bothered for whatever reason, right? So it define, do you want to rent it all 365 a day, days in a year, or only a certain most of the year, and I don't want to rent it during my holiday season because I want to spend my time with my family, don't want to be bothered by a car, right? Maybe, but that's what you have to define the calendar. right? Then compliance is one of the important thing when it comes to short-term rental. Um, there are most other cities and towns now have stringent law for short-term rental, and you have to be compliant with that to make sure you are compliant, and any permit you need, get it. Make sure they are current. So you got to be on top of that, and you had to watch your the particular town, locality, local government to make sure they are not going to change any law. And in some cases, you may go in, bought the property, and short-term rental is allowed. 2 years later, the township decides no more, no short-term is allowed. You need to know upfront and decide what you want to do, whether you want to sell out the property or convert it into a long-term rental or do something else, right? So you got to be on top of that. Here is a small example. We are talking about two-bedroom short-term rental furnishing. We are talking about beds, frames, which might cost about 1,100. The box and the frame and the mattress and everything. Then linens around 450. You are not going to have one set. You are going to have few sets, so you can rotate them. And if somebody is going to be just staying for a week, you have enough linens to replace at least every 2 days or so, and wash it, right? Then you need sofa and chairs for, let's say, $1,000. Dining table and chairs, 450. Kitchen kit, meaning utensil, your toaster, coffee maker, and all those, 650 around. Then you obviously have to have at least these days, minimum. If it is a two-bedroom rental, we are looking at least one in the living area and one in a main bedroom. So you are looking at two TV sets, and any decor and lamps and everything, 400. So we are around 6,800 to 7,000. Sometimes if you go overboard, maybe more than that, right? This is basic. Most of the time, it's not going to be basic with short-term rental, because if you want to compete and you want to get better rates and better ratings, because short-term rental depends on the reviews also. One bad review can cause you damage. Okay. And any additional things you want to have, we are assuming. We normally, when we run the numbers for short-term rental, we do an average for the month, because one day it is going to be, like I said, $70, another day $100. So we find out the average in the day area. Airbnb or VRB, they have the average rental. They have that information for that zip code. Find out that an average occupancy rate, where you are not going to have 100% occupancy 30 days of the month. It's not going to be occupied. It's going to be occupied between 15 and 20 if it is good. Yeah, good one, that's all. Maybe a little bit more, that may be a luck. Okay, but average 15 to 20 days. So in this case, it's 0.68% is the occupancy rate. So we are looking at the total gross income is around 3,264. Then we do our calculation. I assume there is going to be at least 2 cleaning. And here we are talking about 8 cleanings. We are paying $100 per cleaning, $800 for just cleaning. Then utilities you are going to be paying. And with utilities, meaning your electrical, gas, if you have gas, sewer, water, and of course you have to have internet connection, right? So all those you got to consider part of the utilities. Then your supplies. When we say supplies, it's toiletries and anything that is needed, like paper towels and all those, right? and soap, shampoo, whatever you provide. Um, then some maintenance, something always some is going to be broken, right? So you are going to be replacing that. So in this case, our net, after all the expenses we talked about, our net is be our gross income we expect 3,264 after expenses of almost 1,500. We are looking at 1,764 is our net income. Anything you pay after this for uh, principal, interest, tax, insurance, is going to be from this, and cash flow is from this. So that's how you do your calculations for a short-term rental to determine, right? So it is much more breakdown expenses than long-term rental. So always our back, we always look at, even if we are going in with a short-term rental, we always look at the long-term as a backup. What our long, because we do run both scenarios and see, so that way we have everything ready and we can flip the switch if short-term is not going to work for us. Okay. Same thing we do with some of the long-term rental. We look at whether the short-term is in higher income in that area. Then we may go in as long-term with an idea, but we will switch the strategy to short-term, because obviously turning the knob, getting more out of the property is what we want, right? That's about short-term rental, preparing a short-term rental, and what all the things you need to look for expenses, right? Now, specifically short, like I mentioned, short-term compliance is critical. Most of it is going to be permit with the local government authority. There's going to be occupancy limit depending on the locations. Um, Rule of thumb, probably they are going to require maximum of two per bedroom. So if it is a two-bedroom house, probably it is going to be between 4 and 6, assuming you can sleep two in the living room, right? So there's going to be some occupancy limit. You cannot rent it for if it is the limit is only 6, you cannot rent it for a group of 8. Your permit is going to be canceled when they find out, right? Then tax collection is another. Yeah, how are you going to collect? If you are doing short-term rental yourself, not through Airbnb or some other websites, you are responsible to collect local taxes. What of the hospitality industry tax, and you have to make sure it is given. So it becomes a business at that point, like a business, how they handle the tax. You have to handle it if you are not going through one of those platforms, because the platforms usually charge you a fee and handle it themselves, right? So then the local HOA, if it is part on HOA, does the HOA even allow short-term rental? Even if they allow, what are the rules they have? Most of them are going to have at the minimum a uh, uh, noise related restriction, right? So then again, like I said, long-term rental fallback. Make sure you always are ready with a long-term rental fallback when you run a STR. Okay. Um, then again, execution. Like I said, when you execute after lease, after short-term rental, the renter moves in any time after that, it is an op. Only short-term rental, the op and rent lease is really short, and keep working on it all through the year. Long-term, you lease it, then you just operate it until the end of the lease, right? uh, the scope and budget room by room, whatever, right? Always, if you are going to be doing any work, always get minimum of 3 bids. Rule of thumb, I never pick up the lowest one. Okay, especially if it is too low. Like they say, if it is too good to be true, there is a problem, and that is usually problem. If somebody is going to be giving you low, let's say you have a repair, you have to do some remodel, and the one contractor comes and says they can do it for 2,000. Second one comes and says they'll do it for 4. Third one comes and says they'll do it for 5,000. 2,000 is too low. You can really say something they are cutting down or they don't know what they are doing. It's either because you don't want them doing the work because you'll be stuck with it and fixing it later with somebody else and will cost you more, right? So always, then the other thing, you always check their work before if they have any references. Okay, go and check it yourself if you can. That's one of the things we normally do with our vendors. We vet our vendors and check their work. Yeah, even if we have used somebody, we check at least once a year to just to make sure they haven't changed. Okay. Then milestone, it is a contractor can quote, and there is a contract. It is your job as an employer or the manager to make sure you define the milestones in the contract and make sure they are following the milestone. If they say it will be done, phase 1 will be done in 10 days. 10th day, you are going to be checking whether they are going to be finishing. You cannot sit there 20 days later saying they didn't finish it because you are the one going to lose the money. Okay, the longer you sit in a repair work, you are losing the money for whatever reason, whether it is vacancy or you are causing, you are dealing with your renters constant call, right? Lien release, what it means is when a contractor provides a service to a property, they can put a lien if the owner does not pay them whatever agreed upon. Even some cases, even if there is a dispute, they can still put a lien. So whenever you make a payment and make sure you know the job is done, the contractor is not going to be done, make sure the lien release is done. And how it is done, you can create a form, a contract or agreement, a lien release agreement. You can find out online or from your attorney. Make sure they sign and release the lien so they won't put a lien on the house for whatever reason. That way, if they do it either by mistake or purposely, you have a written agreement saying you paid in full. Okay, so always get a written receipt at the end of the project, get a lien release agreement. Okay, and always the 10 to 15% contingency I say because there's going to be a problem. There's going to be always some extra, but there's something missed in the original estimate or something there happened that found out during the project and that costs more. So Murphy's Law applies here. Anything that can happen will happen. So you are going to be giving 10 to 15% budget of your budget to Murphy. What does that mean? Let's say we budget a repair will cost 10,000. So you are going to add another 1,000 to 1,500 to the budget and keep it ready because, like I said, Murphy will happen. Okay. So here we give a quick example, a demo patchwork, waterproof shower walls, right? Wall plus trim, vanity plus sink, LVP. So our contract normally lists every single things. And sometimes we even quote the actual brand name and the model number. And that way we know for sure that is written in the contract and that's what the contractor is going to install, right? So the even like paint, we quote the paint brand and color, sometimes color too. If we don't want, we already chose the color. If not, at least the minimum, the paint and brand, we'll put it in the contract. Okay. Um, so on the timeline also, we normally say we need, you cannot say a work that takes 30 days, you cannot say need to be done 20 days. They're going to do something to make it happen and you are going to regret it 2, 3 years down the road. Okay. But make sure the timeline, whatever is quoted is reasonable and but once you are okay with the reasonable timeline, you had to put it on the paper, a part of the contract. Okay. Um, then budgeting. This is mini math, and day two we did some these formulas. All in cost is basically how much money, because that's where we use cash on cash calculation, right? All in cost is what the money you spend from your pocket, not the mortgage, right? That's not your money. That's bank is giving you the money. The lender is giving you the money. What money you put in for purchase, which if you have a mortgage down payment, then closing cost, then the rehab, if you did any repair rehab, then the carryover, if it took 2 months to fix everything to get the property ready, that is the carry cost. The carry cost includes the 2 months of utility costs, taxes, insurance, everything during that time you didn't have income, you are paying from your pocket. Then the contingency is for Murphy 10 to 15% is your contingency cost. So that also we calculate as part of our cost initially before going in. But once you go and finish, then it is the actual cost we use. Okay. Um, uh, then offer guardrails, which is basically what we are talking about is if our cash on cash target, like I said in the day one, my cash on cash target is always 7. The reason is if I have $10,000, if I can put it in real estate, I have to do work, right? My cash on cash return, let's say 6.5. Yeah, 6.5 maybe okay. Let's say 5%. That's a lot better than putting it in a savings account, yes. But I know I can put the same 10,000, take the same 10,000, put it in S&P 500 ETF over 10-year period. S&P 500 performance is between 7 and 8%. So what do I have to do any work? If I'm getting 5%, I can put it in there, right? That's how you decide where you want to invest, okay? So that is where we are saying the target. Make sure you have a target, your buy box is defined that so you know what you are getting in, okay? And you don't have to say it is 7%. Some people are okay with 5%. So that's what you have to define, not somebody else, okay? Let's see. Then you always have to have your exit plan. You bought the property, renting it, everything goes well, and all 9 yard. Um, some point you always have to have exit plan because something can happen, right? The economy goes down. What do you want to do? You cannot find renters. You have a mortgage to pay up. What do you want to do? Or the you bought the property in an area where a big employer was there. So there are a lot of employees from that employer where you were main tenants and the employer closes their office and moves somewhere else. What do? now you have more vacant rentals. So you are going to be one of them too, right? So you got to be prepared for that. So you have to look at all the local information and what's happening. You have to be on top of it, not every day, but once in 3 months at least. We do every 3 months. We evaluate all ours to make sure we don't have to exit whatever we are doing, right? So the exit also comes the refinance. I put it specifically because sometimes I can refinance if you bought a property at 6% and 2 years later the interest rate is 5%. Probably you want in refinance because your cash flow. You have our main goal is cash flow and preservation and keeping long-term investment, right? So cash flow, you can go back and refinance it. That way, you are. That's one of the exit plan, right? Sometimes you can refinance and take a cash out and put it in for your next investment. So you got to know what you need to do. You have to evaluate all this to know that, right? So, or sell, flat out sell, because it is going to go down. That market is not going to be um, like it used to be. You are foreseeing there's going to be a lot of vacancies next year, let's say. So you sell it. You may want to sell it now. So you got to know that, right? So you have to know the information around the property, the local information. Then hold and optimize, and of course, how do you optimize? For example, COVID came. People lost their job and couldn't pay. So how do you handle that? Because you don't want to evict everybody because that happens, life happens, right? So how do you handle the finance at that point? Because you cannot get income and they have given them excuse to wait for 2 months until they find a job or something like that, right? It can happen to anybody. So moving on, like quick walk through. These are the things we do. I think is important for any rental. With the LED light, I normally recommend everybody get a property, replace everything with an LED light. That way it is brighter, cheaper for the renter. Your landlord, as a landlord, you are paying. It's cheaper for you. Also, it lasts for a long time. You don't have to worry about light going out, right? In the main secure areas. Okay. Um, we always recommend luxury vinyl planks now because it is easy to clean, easy to maintain, easy to replace, and it costs almost same as similar price as carpet. And carpet really needs more cleaning than LVP when you need to clean out, right? The cleaning time, it does get some scratches and damages which you can always fix it with a handyman or somebody. Okay. Caulk and paint touch up. Always you are going to be even you got a brand new house and rent it for a year. Renter leaves after 1.5, 2 years, let's say. You are going to have some kind of painting and caulking and touch up done to the property. All right. Uh, Always have good bathroom hardware and mirror. Replace them. Keep it current, modern, because every renter is a human being, like I said, and they want to live in a house they can show to their friends. Okay, which means their bathroom is one of the places is their friends may go. The living room, kitchen, and bathroom are the important main places, right? So they want to show that they are living in a nicer place. Um, Same thing with the kitchen pull. If the kitchen knobs, make sure you put some modern, nice looking ones. Um, Also, the kitchen, if cabinet needs to be painted or replaced, change them, okay? Modernize everything to make it look modern for that moment or next 5 years, okay? 'Cause every 2 years, 3 years, the decor changes, which we all know, right? So you are going to be spending minimum, but making it look latest decor, okay? And deep clean, always do deep clean. Okay, just don't cut that because you never know, especially with the insect or anything. If it is in there, then you are going to be dealing with insects, right? So, and if there is grout and restore, do all those. So, at the cost I put is per room. It is average, depending on the location and contractor. It may vary, but it gives you an idea for calculation, initial calculation, right? Uh, then the door stops have to be there. Make sure all the doors have stops. Weather stripping in the windows and doors are important. Um, and every bedroom, make sure you have a smoke alarm and the living room, kitchen. And we normally recommend carbon monoxide alarm in the basement, first floor, and the hallway in the if it is second, there is a bedroom in the second floor, the hallway. So that's what we normally do. Okay. If you want to do curb appeal, probably mulch it if you have a yeah shrubs or anything, make sure, but not too much shrubs because then you got to worry about maintaining them. Okay. Here are some things what we did, just showing before and after picture to give you an idea how you can make things better or look better. Okay. Few photos that we did. And here all we did is repainted the cabinets and put a stainless steel appliance. Okay, that's all we did, and replace the floor. We look at it. Here same thing. Replace the floor because when we do replace the floor, we do the whole house, whole unit. We don't do one room, one and one another room. Everything flows that way. It's easy to maintain, and we know if there is a damage, we can replace it easily. That one plank. Okay. This is another one just painted. The paint made a difference. If you look at it, the windows have a little bit wood, a wood stain, I believe. It should be, yeah, it looks like a wood stain. So we just repainted everything white. It's bright and airy, right? So same thing here. We replaced the carpet with the hardwood, with the, here probably it looks like an engineered wood. Okay. Here is another example, a bathroom, just replace the bathroom fixtures. Looks good, right? So that's all. It's small things can make a difference. Here we just uh, glazed the whole bathtub, nothing else. Okay. So here is another example how yeah, staircase can be safer. We normally put carpet in the carpet or carpet runner in our stairs just to make sure somebody doesn't fall, slip and fall. Okay, that's safe for safety reason. Uh, let's see. Here is another one. It's a small attic converted room. Just changing the paint makes it different, and the floor, right? Okay. This one is our burr. If we look at it, because I think this one we did a complete gutter renovation, meaning everything in the house was pulled and we did a full renovation. And if you look at it, everything is modern. And again, how it looked on the before and change it and looks better by changing things around, right? You put uh, vanity in there and change the area. Here is another one, attic converted into a studio. It was an attic room. If you see, there is a handrail to go downstairs. We closed everything, put a kitchenette right here, and it is a studio. So this is how you add value to it. We converted a one unit into two units and added which basically added value, right? So that's what when I say we add value, this is what we do. Um, quickly, how from a realtor team we help. This is we do concierge. Some of the things we do charge. Like when if we have to manage the vendor, we can. If somebody buys a property that needs renovation to get it ready, and they don't if they don't have time, they can hire us as project managers, and we coordinate everything, make sure everything is done, and so we do that part of our realtor team service for our clients. But we do if somebody is going to be doing, we can help them with identifying the vendor and give them referrals and recommendations. Um, and like I said, the PM interviews is basically when we are doing it ourselves. And the STR, if we are going with the STR, we have local connection, local staging companies that we have direct connection, and they can get wholesale furnishings to furnish your single family, not single family, short-term rental. Okay, we can help with the connecting with the right people so they can help you out, and it's our partner too. So uh, they'll uh, they'll do everything to do if they are doing it for us. Okay, for any of our clients, they do the exact same thing. Um, Normally, the 30-day post-close plan, it's standard for anybody. We don't charge. It's not an extra charge. Any of this is not extra charge except the project management vendor coordination we charge because that's a lot more work. Okay, everything else we do as part of our client service. Um, then we also help with the 2 years later, our clients comes, Joe, I have this, I don't know what to do. We have whatever the situation is, we sit with them, do the calculation and help them and have them give them the right direction. Okay. If you don't want to do any of those, that's when Apto Real Estate Group comes in. We do joint venture, which investors who don't have time to do all this. We run the project, we run everything, and every month we give the reports and everything like a regular real in if you ever invested in mutual funds, we operate like a mutual fund company at that point. As a joint venture, we work with our partners, okay? And we do everything, and everything is uh, shared with our partners. What we do, the decisions are not going to be made by partner. I want to be clear on that. Uh, we make the decisions, but what we did, how much it did cost, and we give all the information because that way the partner can decide um, whatever they need. They can ask question or they can direct to for the next time something else. Yeah, and they can, right? So, but again, when we run it like our own properties in the joint venture too. We manage everything every 3 months. We do our due diligence, whether the property is going to be viable. We run all the numbers again for that time. and the local market information, everything gets collected, and we look at all those and determine whether it is still a viable investment to go forward, or we want to do an exit plan and talk to our joint venture partners. Okay, that is primarily wraps up everything, the whole seminar on today. Again, if you have a question, I'll stay for 5 minutes or so. If not, you can always reach out to me either via text or email. Text or email would be faster, because call, usually I'm on a call or something. I'm not going to, or if I'm driving, I'm not picking up the phone. At least I'm looking at it. If it is a text, then I can call you back. Okay. Does anybody have any question? You can put it in the chat, or the mics can be unmuted. You can speak.